Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching The Naturalist Capitalist. I'm your host, Reed Coverdale, and I've got a really great guest on the show today. I've got Larry Sharpe. You guys all know who he is. How's it going, Larry?
I'm not sure I'm that great, but I appreciate it. I will take the compliment.
No, I'm really excited to have you on. You ran for vice president in 2016, and then governor in 2018, and then vice president again this last year.
I didn't really run this VP this last year. I dropped out of the race. I didn't run.
That's true. You were in the running though for a little while, right? Yeah. But you've kind of become a central piece of the libertarian movement, the Libertarian Party. Especially, it seemed like when you were running for governor, that's when you really started taking off. But you want to just in case there are people watching who don't know who you are, you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got
the reality of it is, in the liberty movement, we are a very small movement. We're about 3% of the population at best. I'm probably stretching at that, but it feels good to hit 3%, so I'm going to say it. But we're a small percentage of the population. So it's actually relatively easy to be a big fish in this small pond. So, as we mentioned, the bar isn't that high. Right. I spent my time in 2016 trying to become the VP because I thought that Gary Johnson needed someone like me to get behind him. And I thought, he'd run twice. That would be the end of his legacy. And I wanted someone else to be able to carry the torch. Sadly, I lost that vote by 31 votes. Not that I'm counting. I mean, no one's counting, right? I'm not counting. You're counting. Anyway, so yes, I lost by 31 votes. And so then he had Bill Weld as his VP. And then after that election, which was our best showing we ever had. I mean, we got 4.5 million votes that year. Again, about 3% of the population. It was of the popular vote. It was the best showing we'd ever had. And then they kind of went away. So there was a big opening. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to step in. The next year after that, I announced my candidacy for governor of New York. And I ran a 1.5-year campaign, a real campaign, one where I literally wasn't working for a 1.5 years. I crossed the entire state, every single county, multiple times. I raised $500,000. And, for a libertarian, that's a lot of money. Right? Not compared to my opponents. My opponents raised, my Democratic opponent raised $12 million, and my Republican opponent, I think, raised $4 million. So compared to them, still chump change. But for Libertarian, I mean, that's a lot of money for a Libertarian. $500,000 is a lot of money. So I raised $500,000 to get this thing up and running, and I got the highest vote total we'd ever achieved. And in 2018, there weren't any real big heavy hitters running, right? So because of that, I became the big libertarian hope. I was the biggest one running in the most, the least free state in the union. Voted, by the way, more than once by Cato to be the least free state in the union. Take that, California. So we got you there. So to make impact that I made in there was a big deal in the party. Still, most people didn't know who I was, but within my own world, it was a lot. And because I spent most of my time focusing not on rhetoric, but on actual policies that would make New York better, a lot of people actually noticed me. So that's how I got on places like Dave Rubin, Joe Rogan, NPR, New York Now, Glenn Beck, Kennedy. I got on so many shows because I actually had ideas and policies that made people think, this might make sense. And I think that was probably the best part of the campaign is at the end, I still kept on my policy of like people are copying my policies. And that's what I want. I wanted people to copy my policies. So then I didn't run again. I haven't run since then, but I'm staying active as a host of the Sharpe Way Show, which I'm sure you've seen here or there. Mm-hmm. So I do the Sharpe Way Show, which is a 7 p.m. Eastern show, generally live. And that's a show that's actually not a libertarian show, meaning that I don't have libertarians on it. Right? I'm the only libertarian on that show. Everyone else is not a libertarian. Republicans, Democrats, Greens, Socialists, Communists, Marxists, doesn't matter. Anyone can come on and we talk things out. And I try to show people that you can have conversations with respect and actually, go back and forth. And these people who don't think like me are not my enemy. They're simply Americans who think differently. And I'm trying to make them think the way I want them to think because I'm right, clearly. But they don't always get that. But I also have a daytime show, which is called Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. That one I used to do almost 3 or 4 times a week during the campaign season. Now it's over. I do it once a week, once every 2 weeks. And that one's during the day, and that's only libertarians. That's like libertarian stuff. That's what that one is. That's libertarian candidates, libertarian activists, that's libertarian stuff. So I'm trying to put out content that is both valuable and interesting and that anyone could watch. I want us to get out of our echo chambers so badly, and I thought libertarians were bad at this. Man, Republicans and Democrats, you guys are as bad as us now. I mean, I remember, you probably remember this too. You know, last year during the campaign season, so many Democrats I met were like, oh my God, Biden's going to sweep this thing. He's going to get 80% of the popular vote. He's going to win 40 states. And then you go to a Trump supporter right next to him. Oh my God, Trump is going to sweep this thing. He's going to get 85% of the vote and get 45 states. I mean, just crazy. Because they all sit in their own echo chamber and can't imagine someone thinking the opposite. So I'm trying to break that in my own world. I'm doing the Gandhi. I'm trying to be the change that I want to see in the world. So that's who I am, I guess. Did that make sense?
Yeah, that was perfect. That actually, and it segues perfectly into what I wanted to talk about. With your run for governor, like as you said, you're running in the least free state in the union, so you had to make sense. And libertarianism is a radical ideology, but you were able to craft plans that streamlined the current system, that moved things toward libertarianism. Because what a lot of the libertarians don't understand is you can't just snap your fingers and get everything to Ancapistan right away. You can't just end everything. I mean, if you just end the income tax overnight, you're just going to bankrupt your state. Nothing's, you know. So you actually had plans that you could act on day one. And you were going, I've watched a lot of your interviews when you're on the most liberal show ever, and you explain why we should allow teachers to carry guns in schools. And I see the headline, and I'm like, oh God, there's no way this interview goes well. And then you watch it, and you break it down in a way that actually makes sense. So you want to talk about that a little bit? Just the
I think the most important thing, and let me deal with this from both a philosophical and then a realistic issue, right? Philosophically, would I like to go to an all-voluntary world? Of course I would. That'd be amazing. But I'm realistic. That's not only could you not do it, to your point, but there's a more important point. Most Americans don't want that, right? Libertarians, we tell ourselves lots of lies. Like Democrats and Republicans too. They sit in an echo chamber and tell themselves lies. We do also. We are just as guilty. And we say things like, you know, what all Americans want is freedom. That's not true. We made that up. That's absolutely not true. What Americans want is their problem solved. If that's freedom, awesome. If that's not, awesome too. Right? As long as we get our problem solved is what Americans actually want. And so we don't actually get that as libertarians. We tell ourselves these lies. We say Americans hate government. Also totally not true. Lots of Americans love government. Some Americans hate government. Lots of Americans love government, particularly when it's doing what they want them to do. That's when they really love government. Beating up the other guy, government's awesome, right? They love government. So we tell ourselves all these lies, and then so when we get in front of people, we just keep telling these lies that we think everybody, once we say them, then they're all come running to us, and they're all love us. No, not how it works. So what I realized is something very important, and that is that government is always two things. It's a monopoly, and it's a jobs program. That's what all government always is. Whatever they create, it's always those two things. And when I say that, libertarians get mad and say, government can't create jobs. And I say, ask the 1 in 8 Americans who works for the government if that's true. Yeah, it's not true. The government, of course, makes jobs. And they pay their bills and put their kids through school and buy their cars and buy their homes and go on vacation with money that comes out of the government. So clearly, the government does create jobs for those people who have government jobs. Of course it does. So if I keep that piece in mind, I never talked about, if you remember, I never discussed about, get rid of this, destroy that. What I always said is if you understand that government is both a monopoly and a jobs program, if you destroy it, there's nothing there, which means chaos, worry, black market, problems, and you've just fired a bunch of people. So now they're mad at you. They're not going to vote for you. They're going to vote against you, and they're going to encourage the chaos and the problems. So instead, Always accept that as true and then create another option. Create an option to the government. And don't do it through force, do it through options. Here's a choice, try it. Most of the time when government creates something, it by default creates a monopoly because it knows that it will be inefficient by default. And the only way to keep it around is to make it a monopoly where there's no other option. So if you create a secondary option, the examples I give is things like, FedEx to the post office, private school on top of public school. So I'm not talking about ending schools. I'm talking about having more options for others. And right now with COVID, boy, my plan would have been really good because my plan was all about allowing people to be better at homeschooling if they want it, allowing people to have other options for schooling if they want it. So you can send your kid to public school if you want to, no worries. But what if you don't? Well, you know what would happen? The communities would have actually had now more institutional knowledge on how to homeschool kids. Boy, we could use that right now, couldn't we? If I had won the election, we would have already encouraged that. More people would have chosen voluntarily to homeschool their children. Good for them, no worries. You still have public school. But right about now, those private people right now will be making a killing because they'll be, actually helping others to educate their children. The problem with government also is whenever you add government, you by default remove community. People need help. People need services. Of course they do. What my point is, I don't want government to be the only option they have. I want community to also be an option. And when we create government monopolies, the communities go away. Why would they bother? Government does it. Why would I bother helping my neighbor? I'll call 911. Right. Communities begin to stop helping. And since so many of these people in many communities have been broken for decades, many of these communities no longer have the institutional knowledge to help themselves anymore. So my goal was to create that world to where communities begin to reestablish and help themselves with government still being there as the hammock in case they fail. If my ideas are correct and I believe in a market, and I do, then my ideas will be superior. And then either government will either get better or go away because it's not needed. Either way is a win. I'm happy either way. Let it get better or let it go away because the community has stepped up. Either is fine. And if I'm wrong and my ideas suck, we'll go back to government because it's still there. So that was always my mindset of creating a better world, a better government, was creating more options that still allows for a safety net. But if the community options actually get better, the safety net can go away.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting because a lot of libertarians actually have the same mindset as the statists in the way that you just laid out, because it's almost like they don't want to admit that their ideas could suck because we want to abolish everything and no option, where you're saying, like, look, my philosophy is better and I can prove it to you.
Yes. And if I'm wrong, you don't suffer. Right? If I'm wrong, you don't suffer because the government's still there for you. If I'm right, look at what cool stuff you get. Right? If I'm right, you get cool stuff. If I'm wrong, you get the same garbage you got. There's no lose here. It's a draw or a win. And I think that's why people liked it. But there was another aspect that I would always put on top of this. In everything I came up with, never was there force, never was there more taxes. It was always an option with the current money or another way of funding it. Because you see now with the problems we're having now, particularly in my state, New York, we have tons of problems. And if you look at the answers, every single answer is basically more money. Every answer is more money. And, I'm an entrepreneur. I haven't had a job, me doing my air quotes, in about 17 years. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy with that. That's my lifestyle. I'm happy to have it that way. Some people would hate it. I'm totally fine with it. But what does that mean? That means I'm an entrepreneur. When things go bad, and they have gone bad for me many times, particularly in the 2009 crash, they were horrible for me. I don't get to just go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to use government force and take money. I can't do that. Right? I don't have that option. So what I have to do is I have to take what I have, somehow reboot it, somehow adjust it, shift it to put more value into the markets that people want to stop paying me again. And that is what every successful entrepreneur has had to do. Find ways of taking what they have, make it better in some way so that people want to start giving them money again. So that's how I think about government too. I don't think about government as, I'll just tax more people. That's not what I think. I actually think the opposite. let's not tax them, but make them want to pay me because it's so good. Make them happily to pay their taxes because it's so good. Could you imagine if we actually had a tax system where you were like, I can't wait to pay my taxes. My life is awesome. That would be great. We are nowhere near that. And I think even Bill Maher said that. And Bill Maher, obviously, is a Democrat. He was talking about California. And he's like, I'm tired of living here. People keep moving out because we're paying crazy taxes. And we still have potholes.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to pay a bunch of taxes, at least give me some services so I can be happy to pay them. But I'm not. I'm paying taxes so I can be oppressed. That's just dumb.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, I think a lot of people around the country have been looking at New York over the last year and just kind of viewing it as a giant car crash. And a lot of that goes on King Cuomo, as you call him. So have people come over to you and been like, Larry, I'm sorry, I should have voted for you? Like, I really
all the time. Literally every week, I either get some type of tweet or DM or, Facebook message or something that goes, I really should have voted for you in 2018. Yeah, you should have. That's true. Yes, you really should have. Yes, because everything that I predicted came to pass. Literally, I knew how bad it was going to be. And if anyone listening or watching cares to, you can go to my Sharpe Way YouTube page. And there is a playlist that says, I think, COVID-19 response, March 2020. I did 10 videos on exactly how to handle the COVID response in New York State last March. So this is not a Monday morning quarterback. Oh, now that it's over. No. I gave exactly what to and how to pay for it last March. And every single thing I said would have worked. And now we know for sure. So I just threw it out there in March when we get ready to shut down. I said, that's a bad idea. Here's what we should be doing. Here's how it will actually work. And everything I've said actually happened. I know my state very well. I cross it every single year. I visit every county every year. I know what works here. And sadly, His Majesty King Andrew Cuomo II, all hail the king, did not listen. I wish he had.
No. So I'm seeing something that I've never seen before. I'm getting messages from friends who are from both parties who have been voting that way their entire lives. And, they've been disgruntled with candidates before, but they've never, ever said, like, I'm done with this party. I hate this party. I'm getting unprecedented waves of that right now. And I
hope you are sending them my way.
Hopefully they're going to watch this video. So do you think we have a lot of opportunity to grow this year just because of all the craziness that's happened and how the two parties have just colossally failed?
Yes. The problem is the Libertarian Party has not done its part. I wish it had. It has not been as good as it could have been. And I've been trying to tell people about it, but most of the time they don't listen to me because the Libertarian Party, let me touch both sides. Libertarian Party, for its own side, it was created in a world where activist was everything. It was an activist party. And it still holds a lot of that right now. So a lot of people in the party are activists, yelling and screaming, end the Fed, yelling and screaming, destroy the government. It's a common thing within our party. Right. But when the average person comes over from a Democrat Republican side and they hear, you're evil, you're a sadist, they walk away. They think we're nuts and they walk away. We're not very inviting. Right. I have been spending the last 5 years trying to make us a more inviting party so that when you come in, we talk to you. We don't yell at you. We have conversations. We understand that, to your point, you didn't come to the Libertarian Party because you're a libertarian. You come to our party because somebody said something that kind of made sense to you, better than your own party. So now you're kind of kicking the tires and seeing what's in this box. And if as soon as you open the lid, someone jumps out and yells what an idiot you are, you're going to close that lid. But if you open a box and someone says, hey, how you doing? Let's talk about some stuff. Then maybe you stay. And the story I give often is probably 2013 or so. I think I'm either at a Queens or Manhattan Libertarian Party event. I forgot which one. And a young guy comes in. He's probably 19, 20 years old. And he's like, hey, I heard about you guys. And, I know you guys don't like government, but you guys don't hate NASA, do you? And instead of us going, hey, I'm glad you came. Let's talk about stuff. Come on in. What brought you here? We immediately began to attack him for being an idiot for liking NASA and saying how the perhaps they could do it so much better. And of course, he never came back. That has been our problem for years, but we're getting better. I think we really are getting better, and if we can get better, we can absorb. Now on the opposite side, what people often don't realize is the Libertarian Party isn't necessarily left or right, but it does lean either way, and it leans that way based upon one important thing: the current government. Libertarians are by default anti-establishment, anti-government. So if you're in a blue state like I am, where everything's run by Democrats, the Libertarian Party in New York State, it leans right because the right are the oppressed in the blue state. Right? So how it works, it leans right. And then you go to Oklahoma, it leans left, right? Because Oklahoma's a red state, so the left is oppressed. That's what tends to be. Doesn't mean that we are left or right, but we lean that way. A lot of people got mad at Libertarians during the Trump organization, the Trump presidency. Why? Because the party was leaning left. Why? Because Trump was the president. Right? But now Biden's the president. You are going to watch the party begin to lean right. It's just how it works. The party will shift either way, which means we're going to have more people from the right coming to us this year. We were having more towards the left last year. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's how it tends. That's not a 100% rule, but it's a good 80% rule. The problem is we've been so beaten down that when they come to us, we often get angry. Oh, so now you're coming. Now you're a libertarian. We do that kind of thing. When we should say, I'm so glad you're here.
Right.
Please come on in. So I think for those on the left, it will be harder for them to come to us for a little bit for the next couple of years, because I think the party's going to start shifting right a little bit. That's my gut.
Yeah. It depends, though. There's a lot of anti-establishment left, like Tulsi supporter types, who are so done with the Democrat Party because they've seen that they don't hold any of their interests. I think those people, we actually really, even in a Democrat administration, they're looking at us, and I think it's I really believe in decentralization and streamlining the current system, like we were talking earlier. I mean, you can't always get to your ideal. So the idealism is what scares a lot of those people away, when otherwise they would be on board. But it's really just the rhetoric that, that you hear people screaming about ending food stamps during a pandemic.
Yep.
And those people just want nothing to do with you. Yes,
absolutely. And I got to tell you, the left usually has better rhetoric than the right. Recently, that has not been true. Right. But as a general rule, the left always sounds good, right? Oh, it's equality, it's justice. Oh, it sounds amazing. I'd like some equality and justice. That's great. But look at the policies. Are they really that equal? Not really. But the rhetoric, not the actual governing of the left, tends to be better. Recently, not so much. With the loss of Trump, the left has turned to revenge. Yeah. And its rhetoric is nowhere near as nice as it used to be. You go back about a year, and the left's rhetoric was wonderful. All about equality and justice, and everybody gets a puppy. I mean, it was just amazing, right? Free stuff, free college, no debt. Oh, I can't wait. These guys are awesome. Right. Now, not so much. They've kind of changed a bit. They've changed.
Yeah, for sure. So there's always this hurdle you got to jump when people are coming in, because you don't want to lie to them, and you don't want to tell the people on the left like, oh yeah, we'll have Medicare for all, or you don't want to tell the people on the right like, oh yeah, build the wall. But you want to show them where you overlap with them and entice them. So I tell them, look, we are going to support this policy, and this policy, but we agree here. So I think that's something libertarians got to get better at too. They got to hold the line, but also show where the appeal is.
I would go one step further. And what I go through is, two sides. One is I talk about the outcome. Mm-hmm. I don't even talk about how to get there, because most of the time we're going to agree on the outcome. Right? We want a better this, or we want nicer that, or we want this to work well. So I focus on the outcome first. And once we agree on the outcome, then we gain some mutual respect. After that, then we can have some conversations on how to get there, what will work. So now when someone says, well, we need Medicare for all, what I ask is, are you sure you really want a two-tiered system? And I said, what do you mean? I said, well, Medicare, that kind of system in every country they've tried it, always creates a two-tiered system, right? I see it already in New York City, which is in New York City, most of the best doctors don't take any insurance. So if you're not wealthy and you can't write a check or swipe a credit card, you get whatever doctors are left over wherever you can find them. But the best doctors are moving towards the wealthy, which now they pay an entirely separate issue. Do we want a two-tiered system? And that's what I say. I don't go, government evil, socialism bad. I don't do that. I talk about the outcome. The outcome is you're going to have a two-tiered system. Do you really want that? And they go, well, no, I don't. Well, can we find a better way? Maybe one where all the doctors are accessible to everybody. Maybe that's a better way of doing it. And now we have that conversation. I guess one of the best stories I tell is one where I was doing an event, I think it was last year, 2 years ago, someplace in upstate New York. And a young lady is in the event. Maybe she's, again, youngster, maybe 18, 19 years old. And at the end, I talked to her, how you doing? Glad you came. She goes, Larry, I think I'm a communist. And I said, okay. Now, at this point, there are other libertarians around this event. I've got to kind of push them off and get away, don't attack, right? Because they're ready to go, rah, communist, right. Get her, right? So what I said was, I tried thinking about why she was a communist and why most people think they are. So I went to her and I said, I sat down and I said, let me ask you a question. Are you a communist because you want things to be fair? And she went, yes, Larry, that's what I want. I went right to the outcome.
Right.
I went right to the outcome. And she went, yes. I said, you know something? Me too. I want things to be fair too. I didn't say communism was right, communism was bad. I said we both want the same outcome.
Right.
And then I went down a little area that I chatted with her. I said, hey, let me ask you, do you think fair is like, say, I don't know, everybody gets a 2-bedroom house? Is that kind of like fair? Is that nice? She went, yeah, that'd be great. I said, I agree. That'd be amazing. We all get 2-bedroom houses. That would be awesome. I do like that idea. She goes, yeah. So let me ask you a question. And there was a guy sitting next to me. I said, we both have 2-bedroom houses, but he has 4 kids and I have none. So basically, he's squeezing everyone together in his house. I got a spare bedroom. What happens then? She said, well, people should, give up and build more houses. And I said, what happens if they don't or don't want to? Then what? She was like, I said, you know what usually happens? She said, what? I said, people with weapons show up and decide. Usually they're men with guns, but not always, but they're always people with weapons. That's a guarantee. But usually men with guns. They come by it and they decide. And then if you don't like what they decide, you either go to some form of prison or the morgue. One of those two. That's how it usually works. Either the morgue or you go to prison. So I said, I think socialism could actually work. I think you're right. It could work if you're okay with massive amounts of consistent state-sponsored violence. Right. She said, I don't want that. I said, me either. That's a terrible idea too. I'm with you. I don't like that either. Yeah. And then she said to me only one thing. She said, maybe I'm not a communist. And I was like, that's awesome. Conversation was over. I wasn't trying to make her a libertarian that minute.
Right.
But what I wanted her to be is not think we were crazy, to your point.
Yeah. I
didn't want her to think that we were nuts. I wanted her to think that we're just humans who want the same thing. And here's what I am sure of. She may still be a socialist or communist. I don't know. I haven't seen her since. But what I'm sure of is she doesn't think we're crazy anymore. And she'll hear us.
Yeah. So I want to ask you something, because this gets a lot of division. Do you think there's such a thing as a left libertarian? Because I do, and a lot of people get really angry when that concept comes up. I think the left-right thing's a divisive term anyway. But do you think there can be someone who believes in redistributive lifestyles without government coercion, just like there might be a socially conservative libertarian who doesn't believe in government coercion to enforce his lifestyle on others, but through societal influence? Do you think that's a possibility?
Absolutely, yes. The idea that someone thinks there's no such thing as a left libertarian just means they're too far right. There absolutely is. There absolutely are left libertarians. Of course there are. I'll give you a general rule on left versus right libertarian and then some details. Okay. General rule. If you focus heavily on economics, you are probably a more right-leaning libertarian. If you focus more on social issues, you are probably a left-leaning libertarian. That's not a 100% rule at all. It's a good general rule. If you hear someone talk about free market, you hear someone talking about trade is, free trade, blah, 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 that kind of thing, odds are they're more right-leaning. If you hear someone talking about ending that drug war, drugs are bad, why are we putting people in prison, prison reform, cannabis should be, legalized, they tend to be more left-leaning.
Right.
Good general rule. Now with some details. You can be as liberal or as conservative as you want to be in our party. The goal is, or the issue is, do you want to use government force?
Right.
Right? So people on the left often say, Larry, we should be talking, and this came up recently, maybe it was one of my shows, where someone's like, should we be talking about, worker co-ops and worker-owned companies? And I said, yeah, that's a completely libertarian idea as long as it's voluntary. The
Right.
reason why it's not being done now is the financial industry, the culture of finance, and the culture of business in general, banking and finance in general, is that doesn't work. So what do you have to do? The government could, and I'm happy to do it if I was in charge, to say, hey, let me talk about the idea of worker-owned companies. Not force it, but talk about it and treat that kind of company exactly the same as any other company.
Right.
And then what would happen? Some people would think that a worker-owned company is right for them. Some would. And they would do it. And if they had a successful outcome, others would copy. Bankers would start to loan. That would happen. But if they fail, then they don't work and people won't finance them. This goes right back to my first idea. The monopoly right now is individuals and or stockholders own companies. Let's create an option, not forced, voluntary. Hey, why don't you try some worker-owned companies? See how they work. And this is like anything else. They'll be early adopters. Most people will ignore it. They will not change their policies whatsoever. But somebody's going to be like, I need to find a way to raise money, and I can't do it via the stock market. But if I have my workers pay me every week to get in, yeah, I can raise money. Done. He's going to try it or she's going to try it. And if it fails, well, then the bankers were right. And if it works, the bankers go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Somebody made money on this? And I didn't get my cut? Okay, we can't have that. Time for me to start putting money into this. And I think that's a completely libertarian idea, as long as it's not forced. The problem is most people think that libertarians are the old, we're physically conservative and socially liberal. Right. That's not true at all. The party tends to be that overall as an organization, but there are individuals in our party who are super right and super left.
Yeah.
There are people who are socially conservative, but all they want to be is left alone.
Right.
They don't want to put God in every school. They just want to be allowed to have God in their school. That's totally libertarian.
Right.
That's totally libertarian. That person is socially conservative. They just want God in their school, not in all the schools. If you're Republican, you want to force prayer into every school. That's Republican. Right. If you're Libertarian, you just want God in yours. It's fine. You can have God in your school. I'm fine. I don't care. So I think absolutely is left and right libertarians. The issue is, do you want to force everybody else to be like you?
Right.
Right. I guess one of the best examples I can give you is if you look at the Amish, right? The Amish can easily exist in a libertarian society. They are a voluntary socialist environment. You
Right.
can leave if you want to. You don't have to stay there, right? But if you look at any totalitarian authoritarian state, who are the first people they attack? Those kind of minorities.
Right.
Gypsies, Jews, insert minority, right? They attack the minority.
Right.
Libertarians don't. We go, good. You do you over there. We'll do us over here. Life is good.
Right. Yeah. So the 80-20 rule, is that something you came up with yourself, or did you hear it from someone else, or is that your brainchild? Or
I have to take partial credit for it. It's an old rule that I kind of adapted for us. So I'm not the originator of the rule, but I'm the one who brought it to us, if that makes any sense. So the rule actually comes from a business, 80-20, right? 80% of your profits will come from 20% of your clients. 80% of your problems will come from 20% of your clients. So try to get rid of that 20% that's giving you problems and work on that 20% that's giving you the money. And that's
Right.
the 80-20 rule, right? 80-20. So now Ronald Reagan took that into politics in the 80s. Late 80s, he was saying, look, if someone agrees with me 80% of the time, they're my ally. They're not my enemy, right? We disagree on 20%, but okay, maybe you're not, but you're still my ally. Maybe we're not the same, but we're still an ally. the funny part about libertarians is we usually agree about 90%, and we still fight like we're, diametrically opposed to each other.
Right.
So my whole point was, if someone agrees with you 80% of the time, they're your ally. Why are you yelling? Why are you screaming? You can still support them, right? And the example I give all the time is, there'll be some libertarian running for something, and they'll be supporting libertarian principles and everything except one thing. They'll be like, I don't know, we should probably consider keeping Social Security, around. And libertarians, that guy said he wanted to keep Social Security. He's not a real, I can't support that guy. And I say to myself, wow, you are short-sighted.
Right.
Wow, you are the reason we can't have nice things. You're the reason why we can't move forward.
Right.
Because you know what you could do? You could just say nothing and vote for them and say that person, while they're okay with Social Security, the 99% of other things you agree with, you're on board. So you can't get rid of Social Security with that person, which you weren't going to get rid of anyway. But at least you can move forward on all these other issues. And we often don't do that. And I do it too. I supported our last presidential candidate. I didn't agree with everything she said, but she was way better than the other two. So I still supported her. And I didn't say bad things about her. I didn't go, she said this thing, she's terrible. You know when she said terrible things? You know what I did? I shut up.
Yeah.
I just said nothing. When she said good things, I said, I agree with that. That's awesome. And when she said things I didn't like, I went, that's all. And that's all you have to do. You don't have to pander and say everything she says is awesome.
Right.
But you can just say nothing when she's saying stuff you don't like. Right. And that should go for everybody. And the best example I can give you, I always try to practice what I preach, right? And I never want to point the finger at someone else until I point the finger at me first. This year, as you know, I was behind Judge Jim Gray.
Right.
For the president. Now, Judge Jim Gray believes in a form of UBI called NIT, which is the negative income tax.
Right.
I've often said I'm not a big fan of UBI at all. It's not my thing. I'm not behind it. But when I was behind him, people talked about it, and I gave the answer. I told people what his policy was and why he believes it. They were like, no, Larry, you're a sellout. Now you believe in UBI. I don't. Well, why would you say that? Because I support him, and this is his policy. I didn't say I loved it. You'll never find me on record ever saying that. I didn't go, I think it's the greatest thing in the world. Oh, my God, UBI. Never said that. What I said was, this is what he believes. This is what's important to him. And I support him, which all was true. That's what I said. I can still support a guy even though we disagree on this piece.
Yeah.
It's okay. I know there are some libertarians who think that Snowden should not be pardoned.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a hero who should be given the Medal of Freedom.
Right.
But I would still support someone who was libertarian who disagreed with me on that. Who said, I love you and stuff, but you know what, Snowden, he goes to jail. I would still support him, but I wouldn't bring that up. And when they said that, I would just shut up and walk away.
Yeah. So do you have any non-negotiable issues? Because I have like 3. I mean, for me, it would be ending the wars, ending the drug war, and ending the surveillance state. I mean, if anyone, even if they're great on everything else, if they want to invade Iran, I'm probably not going to vote for them. So do you have any of those issues that you can't budge on? Or
mine is the 80-20 rule. Same thing.
Yeah.
If the person is saying, you know what, the military-industrial complex is the greatest thing in the world, and we're not invading enough people, that's too far, right? But if they're going, look, it's bad, let's just end the wars. Yeah. Let's just end all the wars, but you know what, we probably should keep bases all over the world. That to me says you're coming in my direction. I got to guess is that 80%. I might still support him, assuming that the other things weren't also as bad.
Right.
Does that make sense? And that's subjective. Like if he's or she is 100% in drug war. Okay, I'm liking that. 100%, change the demilitarize the police. Right. 100% on deal with the Fed right away. But they're kind of iffy on the military-industrial complex. But they'll end the wars.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is 80%.
Right.
So it's no question. It's subjective.
Yeah.
But if someone says, look, I think America should have a presence and be in NATO and be in the UN and be across the world, but on everything else, they're bringing it down and they want to end the wars, I'd probably support them still.
Yeah. Yeah, I campaigned for Tulsi Gabbard in the Democratic primary, and it was definitely on the edge of the 80-20 rule. And when I was going door to door, if we were talking about the wars or criminal justice reform or the Fed or demilitarizing the police or, all that was easy. And then it would get to healthcare. Yes. I'd be like, well, you're going to have to look at her website. So yes. I feel your pain. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, well, look, the reality of it is I think Tulsi may come even closer to us because the establishment has completely, dissed her completely, yes. Right? So she may come close to us and realize that, you know what? If the problem is we as libertarians have not come up with enough policies to answer questions, right? I actually have a plan to deal with Medicaid. Medicare, I've talked about it on my website, right? Yep. I've dealt with this, and it's not destroying it. It's opening up privatization and seeing if that works better for everybody. That's what it's about. That's my entire plan, as I always say. Now, what happens when you talk to the average libertarian? We just got to end Medicaid. Well, that's not an answer. That's useless. That's useless rhetoric, which means nothing to the average person. And this goes back to our echo chamber thing. In the echo chambers, rhetoric works very well because you go to a libertarian convention and you go to debate and they go, well, how do you handle this? All you have to do is yell this: just get government out of it, and then it'll get better. Free market. Everyone claps, goes, oh, you're the best libertarian ever. That's garbage. That is total garbage. That means nothing. It doesn't solve a problem. Great, you read, Hayek. I'm impressed, right? That means nothing, right? Now tell me a real way you plan on actually getting someone to actually have health care with your plan. How do you do that? If you can do that, now we have an answer. Now people like Tulsi, if they pick up on that, they won't want Medicare for all. Right. Tulsi doesn't actually want Medicare for all. Right. What she wants is an answer for her constituents. And right now, the best one she's got is Medicare for all. If we gave her a better one, she'd probably take that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's our fault for not having policies.
Yeah, that's totally true. So what's next for you? What are you doing going forward? Do you have any plans? Are you just going to keep growing the party? You got any political ambitions, or what's?
I said in 2016 this was a 10-year plan for me.
Yep.
I got 5 left, so I'm halfway through, and I'm still pushing forward. I really want the party to have federal representation by 2026. Yep. I hope 2024. I hope that. I'll take 2022, obviously, right? I'll take it. But I really hope we can get it by 2026. Last year set us back.
Yeah.
Last year was a throwaway year for us, which was terrible. However, there's some bright stars in there. We had a couple of people really stepped up. Guys like Brad Barron, guys like Ricky Harrington, guys like Donald Rainwater. I mean, the guys like that, they really stepped. We had a victory in Wyoming. So, I mean, we had some victories. So we had a couple bright spots. But generally speaking, we got a bucket last year. And that sets us back. So we got to work hard now in these next years to make up for that, right? So I'm going to try to help to do that. I'm growing my video podcast, The Sharpe Way. Please, people, go check it out, Sharpe Way, on all the internet things. It's on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, all the things. Check it out, whatever's your thing. It's on every night. Please check that out. That's why I'm trying to bring more people together and show people how we should be communicating with each other. The more people who do that better, the better off we're going to be. So my plan is to keep this going so that more people can grow, help building out infrastructure so we can actually bring people into the party. One of the reasons why we don't get good candidates, or as many good candidates, is we don't have anything to give them. We don't have infrastructure. We don't have a good donor base. We don't have a good volunteer base. We don't have, infrastructure set up every place. I need a lot of that to set up too. In New York State, when I first begun running in 2017, we had about 16 out of 62 counties affiliates. Now we have over 30. So I'm trying to move that to max and be 62. That every single county, there is a representative to talk to, some kind of infrastructure to get you on the ballot, to support you in your run. And that's the goal also, to make that happen. I'm considering running for governor again. I will make an announcement this summer, whether I will or I won't. Depends on what's happening in my state, how much money can I raise, how much support I have, whether I make the run. And then in 2024, a lot of people are asking to run for president. The odds are very high that I will not be doing that. The only way I would do that is if somehow I became super popular, which I hope that happens. I would hope that happens, but I'm just being realistic. The odds are I'm going to be very libertarian popular, but I probably won't be mainstream popular. If I became mainstream popular in the next 4 years, I would consider doing it. Otherwise, I want someone else at the top of that ticket that is going to be popular, that is going to be able to raise money, that can make real impact. However, I would consider being the VP. I would hit the bottom of that ticket if that person's there. I'm very much open to the VP slot.
Okay. So yeah, when Justin Amash joined the party, that was huge, right? That validated us to a huge amount. We were just talking about Tulsi, like if she joined eventually, if Thomas Massey joined, if even Rand Paul, he's kind of pissed us off lately, but if he joined, so I think
if we could get an Amash Gabbard ticket in 2024, I will happily support that ticket. I won't run for president, nothing. I will happily. I'd beg them to let me be their communications chief or something like that or whatever. That's awesome. I would totally take that ticket in a heartbeat. We'd have so much impact with that ticket. I mean, the amount of press we would get, the amount of, it would help every other candidate running. Whether they win, lose, or draw, obviously I hope they would win. But whether they win, lose, or draw, who cares? What every other libertarian running would get from that ticket is a measurement in money, in time, in validation, in everything. It would help us. It would help the down ticket so much if we had that ticket. I would absolutely take that ticket.
Yeah. So, to get stuff like that to happen, as you just pointed to, we need to organize ourselves so that more people than just Justin Amash will take us seriously, right? So that's the goal, is organizing.
Well, the other issue is, look, the person I wanted at the top of our ticket, I want that person to be a good representative of libertarianism.
Right.
Be a good representative, right? They don't have to be great, because the odds are they're not going to win. So they don't have to be great, but they got to be good. Bottom of the ticket, I'm actually less concerned. Move forward. I'm less concerned, right? Because the VP slot, which libertarians just don't get, we have completely we don't get this. It's support staff. Right? I ran for VP because I wanted to be support staff.
Right.
But sadly, we go, the VP, he or she is their own blah, blah, blah. That's garbage. That's silly. That's dumb. It's a waste of resources. It's silly. The VP is support staff of the president. And that's what they should be, support staff. And I understand that. So I'd happily be support staff. If Amash wants me on his ticket if he runs, I'll happily be that support staff. Happy. If he wants me to be anything else, I don't have to be that. I'll take whatever works. If we get someone like that. What I don't want is someone who is only popular. Like, I don't want someone like, let's have, let's have Mitt Romney. Let's have Mitt Romney run because he's popular. I'm glad he's popular, but I don't want him top of our ticket. Would I take someone like that bottom of the ticket? Maybe. Maybe. Depends. But definitely not top of the ticket.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Like you've said in your other interviews, you want your message to get out there so you can go home, right? And you don't have to do this anymore. That's the eventual goal, right?
Absolutely. That's why I said a 10-year plan. Yes, I don't want to be killing myself forever. That's not what I want, right? I'm prepared to give, I'll give 10 years. I'll give 10 years of my life to the party. I'll do that. Then let me go home.
Well, we appreciate all your help. You've definitely, at least for me, you've made it more serious because you've shown me that there's a way to do this effectively and not be an idiot. Whether or not you end up running for president or vice president, we're going to try to make you as popular and famous as we can regardless. So
awesome, my friend.
I will put links to all your social media, to your YouTube channel, and everyone go follow this guy and give him support. And I want to thank you for coming on, Larry. It was a great interview.
I'm so glad you had me. Thank you so much.